closet back there? You're packed. Why don't we just all come together, sit on the floor, get real intimate and personal? I have no idea what they have planned. I just think showing up, the trained monkey that I am.
Oh, no. What's that?
No, there's nothing. What are those big scary cameras to capture this massive crowd? Laptops or?
I have no idea. I don't know. Yeah, I just figured it's about talking. Yeah. Roger, nice to meet you, Roger. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Roger.
So everybody, thanks for coming. This is Scott Capullo from Capullo. I'm going to have to say a whole lot here.
So he's trying to say I talk too much.
So I guess the first question I want to ask is, how did you first get into comics?
Well, it was something I was always interested in, you know, from the time I was a little kid, around 8 years old, I knew I wanted to draw comics. At that point, it was even, can I draw from Mad Magazine? And so through high school, you know, drawing our superhero stuff, and I had a rival whose name is Kevin Conrad. He was in business for a little while, and we were always drawing our superheroes. Now back then, this was pre-9/11, and I'm in upstate New York, as my friend, and we would get on the train or drive down to Manhattan to Marvel Comics office, and you can't do that now. We would have an appointment, and we'd get on the elevator, we'd go up there, we'd plead, can someone come up and look at our portfolios? And so I had, you know, like, Jim Shooter came out of his office to look at my stuff back then. Now, you go to the lobby, there's a security thing, you have an appointment, no, hit the road. You know, but back then, you know, it was a different story. And so I would go over and over again down there, and, you know, you don't realize how bad you suck because you suck. And, you know, you think you're great. And, you know, me and my buddy would go, oh, man, revolutionize comics until you got down there and you start to go, here's why you're not ready, kid. And, but eventually, you know, I got an editor who was very, 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 very hard on me, Larry Hama. And this guy was so brutal to me, we started swearing at each other, and he told me to get out of his office, I needed to give up and drive a truck, you know, and later on, I rubbed it in his face, I can't recall, but that's how it all started, just, you know, bringing my stuff down to their office, beating on the door, getting their advice, but Larry Hama was the guy who changed it all for me by kicking my ass. A lot of guys hate him because of how hard he kicks ass, but made me drive harder to show him he was wrong. And that's how it started. And then after that, once I started getting a little better, from finally 2 years of ignoring Larry Hama, mostly because I didn't understand him, because he was talking over my head. I took his advice, and it raised me to a level where John Romita Sr., who was art director, took me under his wing, and he brought the rest of it. And actually, it was John Romita Sr. who went to all the editors and we gotta get this kid work, we gotta get this kid work, we gotta get this kid work. And boom, that's how it happened. But I raced him to the Marvel work. My very first work, as David reminded me when we were taking a walk up here, was independent horror comic book called Gore Street, which was put out by Fanico, which is, I know that one. Yeah, it was a little independent, black and white, a lot of short stories in there, and I had no interest in horror. I never had horror comic books. I was strictly the superhero guy, but it was the first comic opportunity I got, so I took it. And so that's how it all began. I'm just going to do that after I finish the local stuff.
You were on Marvel for 3 years total. Is it Quasar and then X-Force?
Yeah. Well, first off, Marvel, when they were trying to find work for me, they gave me a few one-shots and short stories. So my very, very first Marvel Comics work was Where the Daredevil Killed the Kingpin. And so when they found a full-time book, and that was Quasar, and it was a book that was on the chopping block, ready to be canceled. And And so they go, give it to the new guy. And I raised it by 20,000 sales and avoided the chopping block. And at this point now, I've been doing Quasar for a year. And that's when all the big guys that you may have heard of these guys like Jim Lee, Tom McFarlane, Rob Light, all those guys went for me with comments. And when that happened, all the top slots opened up, and they just grabbed me and went, "You're on X-Force." Wow, can't argue with that. And so I was doing X-Force, and I wasn't even very long into it, you know, probably half a year at most. And Tom McFarlane calls me up. Now I'm living at home with my mom, and guy calls up saying he's Tom McFarlane. And I think it's my friend fooling around, you know. So the first 10 minutes of the conversation was him having to convince me it was really Tom McFarlane, you know. And then when I finally realized, yeah, it's really Tom McFarlane, I was like, "Mom, it's Tom McFarlane on the phone!" You know, she's like, "Who's that? Shut up!" You know. He says, "How'd you like to come and work for me, you know, doing some Spawn?" Or, no, at that time it was Violator Ministries. And I said, "Are you crazy? Marvel just hands me this plum, and you expect me to come and leave that and to do work for your little startup company that could fold 10 tomorrow?" Hangs up the call. That was it. So I stayed doing X-Force, and the only thing I wanted them to do was promote me like they had done for Jim and Rob and the rest of us, you know. But they were anti-promoting artists because they go, "Look what happens when we do that. They all, you know, leave." And so they weren't having it. And so I got discouraged. Because I'm a loyal guy. You can see how long I stay on it. And so all I was asking for was a little promotion. They wouldn't do it. So I called Don back up. I said, "You still have a job available?" And at the time, Bart Sears, who was doing the Violator miniseries, was dragging his feet. And he goes, "Great, I'll give you the third and last issue of the Violator. And then after that, if you want to continue working for me, and you guys have used Spawn any of it?" Yeah, so you know I was on that for a long time. We did like 8 issues or so. And that's it.
And with Tom McFarlane, you did a lot more than just comics. You did toy design and album covers. That was mostly through Todd too, right?
Yeah. See, Todd, if you guys follow him at all, you know, he's more than just comic books. He got involved with, you know, he created his own toy company, and he's multimedia. People want him for stuff, you know, and it's funny because, you know, heavy metal people love Spawn, and Todd doesn't listen to any music, and would never, even if he did listen to music, ever be heavy metal, but they approached him, so it was always me doing the album covers. And so it was a great opportunity because I even got to go to Green Day studio and hang out in Oakland and listen to music that wasn't released to the public, because they wanted Todd to direct like an animated movie that went along with their soundtrack. So Todd knows nothing about music, so it was neat for the meetings, because I know all about the music, you know. And so it was through that avenue that, you know, I got to do album covers for Korn and Disturbed and Iced Earth, and now that I'm on my own, they come to me. Like I just did 500 Death Punch, which is awesome. And we're waiting for Black Label Society to have me do that, do an album cover. But yeah, it's good. And as I said, he had the HBO animated series, so I developed character animation for the animators to work off of, and helped do toy designs for his company, and so working with, and video game development, so working with Todd opened the doors to a lot more things than just comic books. So when I started doing Spawn, people thought I had retired, but I was just more or less behind the scenes still working with Todd in all these other areas. And it's very cool. It's also very upsetting because I'll tell you, as I said, Todd knows nothing about music. I'm going to tell you an inside story. You can't tell anybody. Now, Disturbed. You guys know that band at all? Who? Disturbed, right? So anyway, Todd was on vacation with his family at the time. And so Terry Fitzgerald, who was the president of TMP at the time, Time Farm Productions, calls me up and said, "We got to do this, we got to develop this thing." So I did this whole digitally painted cover. And Todd was on vacation with his family, he doesn't know what Disturbed is, and then he comes home and starts going, "You know, I feel great, Capullo and I delivered a good cover." So it's pretty long to do that. And he's on autographs, signing to him, like, "Oh, I painted that whole thing from scratch, I developed everything." But, you know, it was like working for Walt Disney World for Todd. You know what I mean? His name was on it, whether he had any involvement or not. So a little bit of a jagged curve as well. So it's great, you know, now, I think that Todd's not having his signature digitally dropped into the album cover anymore.
So yeah, for me, it seemed like a little while. It wasn't seemed much. I saw some great feature coverage really for Spawn, and then you finally had Preach. Let's talk about Preach, but
I can help you in any way you'd like, Dave. Yeah, Ted Frames, the Creech, yeah, big giant guy.
Preach was earlier on.
It was good, the Spawn.
Three-issue miniseries of Preach.
Yeah, I did two arcs. Anybody could probably have Creech. Creech wasn't a big blockbuster. I still have people bring up the Creech, but, you know, it wasn't on the level that Spawn was at that time. But I did it at the same time. I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. It gets harder when you get older. Here I was doing multi-book as hard. I did Spawn without missing a beat, and I did the Creech without missing a beat. I wrote it, penciled, second arc, I wrote it, penciled, and inked it, all while doing Spawn at the same time. I don't know how, man, I was like Superman, you know? But, I'll come to it now, come on, I'm treasuring part of Batman, keeping on top all the time. But, the Creech, actually was a character that came to me, I just had the name of the Creech come to me in a dream. And so I woke up in the morning and go, that's a pretty interesting name. And I wrote the character around the name, the Creech. And so the Creech is, I'll just give you a little overview. I think it's cool, and I'm going to come back with Scott Snyder to finish it when we're done with Batman. He was made in the lab. He's half human DNA spliced with alien DNA. And his mind was a blank slate intentionally, not to put the same limitations you and I all have. Because without a lot of our mental limitations, there actually are limitations. And so the doctor who creates this thing has all this fantastic vision of this potential, whereas the company wants to just turn it into a mindless war machine, because also without these limits here, there's also not the strength limits. He doesn't know he can't do that, so he can do that. And so he decides to implant, he's a pacifist, to implant his consciousness into this creature so that they can't turn it into a war machine. And the bad guy, leader of the organization, comes to him mid-mind transfer, and while the guy's mid-transfer, he's giving a speech, he says, say goodnight to the creature, and when he says creature, he pulls the trigger. So that's how he gave up the name of Creech, because the last input was Creech. You never heard of creature all the way spelled out. So anyway, that was that, and I was writing the third part of the story right before taking over Batman. So it's there, it's ready to be done. So I told Scott, I go, you know, you're a professional writer, and already I recognize things in the first issue story arc that I don't like so much that I would change anyway. So why don't you just kind of like be my guiding hand? And I'm actually thinking of going back to issue 1 and drawing and retelling the whole story so I can fix up parts that could be better and just go, here's one big fat creature from start to finish, beginning to end, after we do our Batman stories.
So do you have a time frame for that at all?
Well, I got still 16 issues left on Batman, so I figure that's going to take me out for another 2 years, you know, because you figure, you know, between story arcs, I like to just take a little break, try and recharge a little bit. So they'll probably shake out in 2 years before I can, you know, do other stuff.
Yeah, and you did Hunt for a little while. You did layouts.
Yeah.
Ultimately ended up doing all the business for that one just before Batman.
Right. You guys heard of Robin Kirkman yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Walking Dead. So Robin Kirkman got together with Todd and they created this character, Haunt, which was panned by critics before I ever saw a friend. They were calling Spidey Spawn, Spawn, you know. And so at that time, Todd, as I said, I was working behind the scenes with Todd. And Todd calls me up one day and says, Craig, I need you to come back and draw Spawn. And I just was like, no, this is a nightmare. I drew 8 issues Spawn. I am fried, I am burnt out on Spawn, and I'm groaning. I don't want to take over Spawn. But he's paying me, you know, salary all the time, and he's telling me this is what he needs me to do. So it's like, okay, I'm back on Spawn. And then a few days later, he calls me up and goes, or I can give you this other book called, I said, yes! Before he got out of his mouth, yes! I don't care what it is. And so, at the time, you guys know Ryan Otley, right? Yeah, and he's a very good artist, and he's doing Invisible, and so not able to actually, carry the full load of doing 2 books. So I was hired to do the layouts for Ryan Otter. And then at some point, that became too much for Ryan to pencil off my layouts, and they said, you want to be the penciler. So for a time, I did this book with Robert called The Haunt, which is, anybody pick it up? You guys know what Haunt is? A couple of you? So really gory book, Robert just loves gore. I read the word evisceration so many times during the plot reading of this stuff, you just love the gore. And that was cool, and it was fun, but, sales were not big, and guys in our business, we get, paid respectively, with our pay rates, but we really, for the big money, it's in the sales of the books, the royalties. So I blame my wife for me being on Batman, because I got married, and she had 2 kids that came with her. I call them, her accessories. And she came with accessories, and the one accessory was ready to go to college, so I needed to go mainstream to make some bigger money. Now, all those years I was small, Marvel sent me an open contract. Every year I get it like clockwork. Anything you want, let's get it together. And so finally, I gotta make this move. And so I called Marvel, I called DC, and I said, I'm ready to come back to mainstream. So it was an economic decision, actually, you know what I mean? And I needed to get on something that, could carry the family a little bit stronger. And so Marvel offered me the Avengers vs. X-Men, but without the explanation that it was going to be all these people working on this title. They never gave me that piece of the puzzle. If they had given that to me up front, I wouldn't even consider that. I thought, wow, Avengers vs. X-Men, that's huge. And, all mine, but it turned out not to be that case. And at the time, DC goes, we want to give you something that's Batman related. I said, well, you got to come with something stronger than that, Batman related. What is that? We're offering you this. Because they didn't want to let the cat out of the bag about the relaunch of 52. And so I had to sign a non-disclosure contract. And once I did, they go, we want to give you Batman, the title Batman. And, they could tell you, right? It's like the dream job, right? It's the biggest.
Yeah, I spent my whole career wanting to do Batman. I'm still bummed out that I'll still do it. It is like that.
It is, right?
Yeah.
He transcends Marvel, he transcends DC. Batman is his own entity, man. I don't think of him as a brand from a company, it's Batman. The world owns him. And so it was still a tough decision, I'll tell you why. Because I grew up a Marvel guy, so I never foresaw the day I would work with DC. But I will tell you, the first superhero I ever drew when I was only 4 years old was Batman. And so for 2 months, when I was trying to figure this out, which direction I was going to go, that little boy who drew Batman just was inside me, kicking me in the chest, calling me, Batman. And so it was almost like betraying a lover, because of Marvel was my first and true love, I had to go, sorry guys, thanks for this amazing offer and everything you wanted to give to me. I respect you back for that, but I have to go down and do Batman. And, but I will tell you, I was crapping my pants, because it wasn't coming out of Batman 733, it was coming out of Batman #1. The burden, responsibility to take Batman, the world icon superhero, and start from issue #1. Now, on the surface, if I tell you that, you go, wow, that is so cool. Yes, so cool, and freaking terrifying, because you're setting precedent. And I don't like the art I provided for issue 1. And why? Because I was bound up and I was tight. And no matter, listen, husbands, wives will tell you when their husbands are bound up, it's bad. It's just that you can't be bound up. And there's all kinds of performance. And my performance on Batman was hindered. I had performance anxiety. And now I don't have that, and so now the artwork improved. The nerves went down around issue 2 or 3. And if you now, knowing how I was feeling, look at issue 1, and then as you got to issue 3, you should see the performance anxiety start to go down, because it had to. You just all of a sudden now you're doing the job. But I was very aware of doing the job on issue 1. Terrifying stuff.
It's amazing how, no matter how many years you've been in the business, and how much
Yeah, it's true. Dave and I were talking about this on our way upstairs, because his wife just took over writing Wonder Woman, and, the pressure, I hope that you could say that, and that wasn't a secret. Okay, so, anyway, the pressure of taking on, and well, listen, you have pride in what you do, so you want people to like it, so you do your best, and the pressure is there because you don't know how the fans are going to react. So you guys make our life very terrifying at times.
So I wanted to ask you some stuff about Batman and then some process questions.
All right.
So with Batman, there's no way that you could have known it would take off to the extent that it has, and just, I saw some masks just really from, then the Alex, it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing too, is, you don't know what's gonna hit and what's gonna miss. And, Dave and I were talking about that too. I mean, the most we can do is do our best work and hope for the best. But, I mean, that's why, even though you guys kind of like the Batman, I assume, right? Yeah? So, I don't take it for granted though. I mean, like you guys like it today, but you might dislike it tomorrow. And so I don't take it for granted at all. People's tastes change, you might fumble a ball in your eyes at some point, and boom, it's all our success. So, I take it as a blessing, that you guys like Batman to the extent that you do. Can't predict it, I'm the same artist that I was on Hawk. Nobody wanted Hawk, hardly at all, even though I'm the same guy. So that's why you can't rely. Now, part of it is obviously Batman, the character Batman. Batman is a better character than the Hawk was. So that part I also recognize. Partly is the character. You have certain iconic characters that already bring a certain amount of fan following. But even with that being in place, somehow, magically, whatever's taking place, the union with Scott Snyder and I together seems to have struck a chord in a lot of fans. And could do nothing but great for it because it's nothing that you can plan. It's not like putting together a boy band or something like that. Here's the boy band, they're all good looking, pretty, they can dance cool. You can't do that with comics. You put it together and it's either sink or swim.
I hear that you take a pretty heavy-handed storyteller, more so than most artists do nowadays. And how much of an impact do you think that's had in what the book is?
I'm sorry, that I take on it?
Yeah, well, I heard that you, most artists, you included when I working with a big writer, I just think it's a tail one, I can't tell what.
See, Scott writes the beats, and you could call it panel one, but Scott always gives me free license to change everything. Because my generation of artists, particularly coming from Marvel, we work from a plot, and most plots that a writer would give to you were like between 4 and 6 pages in length. That's nothing. It would give you overviews of scenes. And it was up to you to bring that to life. So the writer's job there is to just give you evocative writing that would bring the images to your mind. Now, PC was always full script. And when I got Scott's full script out of the printer, I couldn't believe it. It was like, change the paper tray, change the ink cartridge. Kidding me? It's a 22-page story with a 48-page script. Are you kidding me? And particularly now, I work with Marvel, I work with Tyler with phone conversations. He'd call me up and go, I need 3 pages of Sam and Twitch, and they'll be talking about this. All of a sudden, I'm getting Scott stuff, and Scott, and I'll tell you, I love the kid, but he's a wordy guy. And sometimes I see plots, a copy, and I go, where do I put the drawings? I'll give you a funny story you can look for it. Batman is at the bottom of a Wayne Tower in a car with his uncle, and Scott had so much dialogue, I didn't even know how I'm going to possibly put this on the page. So you look, I drew a tall, skinny panel, and Wayne Tower crammed off to one side, and equally tall to that skyscraper is a column of word balloons with an arrow that points down that you can't see there in the car. Because he came from a prose background, so he doesn't have the shorthand down yet about comic books. A lot of times, how the hell do I, So, but initially, like in Batman 1, he had it all laid out with that, panel this, on to and all this, even to the point of telling me, you know, what was to be included in the panel and the camera angles and all that. And that was like, to me, that's my territory. The day I can tell a writer what words to stick in those balloons, that's the day you can tell me what to stick in the panel. Until that day comes, step off. You finish your job, and I'm gonna do mine. And so Scott and I butted heads early on this. Probably you guys have heard this story a bunch of times already. But because he wanted so much control, and you know, I want my freedom. And so that we've come to a sort of common ground. Neither of us work in the way that we are accustomed. And it wouldn't be fair for either one of us to come completely over to the other side. You know, it wouldn't work. And so now Scott, he gives me the story beats, and he's even now starting to give me blocks that this happens between this page and this page with no beats, you know, which I prefer. And even when he gives me the beats, he tells me you can change the pacing, do whatever you want. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that makes me smile still to this day, every single script I get, he'll describe it, and then he says, or whatever you want, the next exclamation point, and to top it off, a smiley face at the end of it, every time, or whatever you want, smiley face. So God bless that kid, I love him.
So when you actually sit down and draw a page, how do you approach it? Do you work on a sensible layout, build out pages?
You know, I'll tell you, the way I always worked was straight to the boards. Sometimes, as I said, because of the amount of words Scott may have, or a scene I might feel is interesting, I would do a thumbnail, so the page size is this big, you know, and in those instances, you know, I'll do it that big, and I'll blow it up, I'll put it on the light table, and I don't try to go finished art from there though, because I feel you lose the magic of the spontaneity. So I'll just do the most loosest lines following that. And also things change when you blow them up from this big to this big, all of a sudden it's not occupying the space quite the same, so I'll still do modifications on the board. But most of the time, I read the plot, I'll run it through my head a bunch of times, because I kind of see a movie play when I read plots like that, storyline. So I first get all the visuals in my head, and then I try and think of what panel count shapes would tell the story this. I'll give you an example. Let's just, and this is not a rule, this is just an example. Say a guy is falling off of a building, you know, a very tall building. Okay, now, the one advantage an artist has over cinema is we have